Welcome back to a bit Gamey and the July update. So I've been doing my recon patrol in Poland thing for the World War II, and I was using the French figures for the poles because I don't have any poles yet. But there's various things missing from that, like a small mortar and such. So I was going to finish off, get the fake poles sort of filled in with all the different reinforcement options. But when I originally started the World War II, it was going to be British versus Germans, and so I bought a bunch of British, but not painted them. So now it's got a British and a French and a Polish to do. So I decided to not buy any new figures yet. I'm just going to clear through the British ones and then proxy them with the poles. The French providing the infantry, and the British figures providing the various things I haven't got with the French yet. Like the mortars and machine guns and such. And also to try and get the organisations fixed in my head, because in the early war, a lot of the armies had very odd-shaped platoons, with very large sections, 12-man sections, 16-man sections, etc. And that's more relevant, I think, on a one-to-one type game, like bolt action or whatever. That's more relevant, and but I say my main aim was more of a kind of crossfire scale, so a company, but roughly 1-3 scale. And so on the platoon level, these would be 3 guys on a base, with one base having a machine gun, and I'm just going to make all armies the same. Basically, I'm going to edit rules to suit it. So basically on a platoon scale, these bases will be 3 guys on a base, making not 3 bases, and an NCO and an NCO. So 3 of them with an officer with a runner and senior NCO with a runner, 2-inch mortar and anti-tank rifle. So that's going to be the basic organisation. I'll change it around depending on the circumstances. Because the other thing is like it doesn't matter. But basically, you've got a lot of complicated organisation structures. But I think at company level and battalion level, it kind of averages out. I don't think that was critical in World War II. The sort of slight differences between the infantry platoons. I think it's high level stuff that was a problem. So anyway, that was the plan, and then for a company level game. So yes, that's going to be the standard organisation for platoon level games. But for company level games, it's basically the same, except each of those bases now represents a squad. So it's 3 squads and an officer figure. So that's that's that basically. And then the support weapons, like the 2-inch mortar and the anti-tank rifle. If you assume that each platoon had one of those, and you're using a company scale, then those 3, the 3 anti-tank rifles from the 3 platoons turn into 1 at the company level, and same with the 2-inch mortar. So it's basically it's basically a 1-to-3 scale where the support weapons kind of go up to the next level. And so at company level, you just take each base of 3 guys and make that a squad, and then you've got 3 squads in each platoon with an officer. The support weapons, like the 2-inch mortar, there's 1 in each platoon, so you push that up to where there's 3, which is at the company level, and you put the support weapons, the anti-tank rifle and the 2-inch mortar at the company level. Now, the problem with that is you know, your company figures. I was going to use the Zvezda British HQ figures as the next level HQ sort of option, but I don't know. I prefer the idea of being because I'm trying to do it so that, you know, a whole bunch of different I can play different rules, and one of them was O Group, and you know, looking at all the way O Group does their battalion HQ on a little diorama, I decided I'd do these four as, instead of being a company HQ, there'll be a battalion HQ on a diorama. So basically, what it just boils down to is I'm going to use this guy as the company commander. I need a couple of figures to go on his base, and I need another platoon commander from somewhere. But apart from that, that's the base kind of company thing settled. And as I say, for the Polish, it's really just I need a 2-inch mortar and some anti-tank rifles. Because I've got you know, officer figure for the French. For the French being the French pretending to be Polish have got an officer figure. They don't have anti-tank rifles and light mortars yet. So that's actually explained very well. But anyway, a couple of points on what I said previously on when I was doing the review of the figures that I was using, is that the Zvezda figures were too big, or rather they were 25mm compared with 20mm for the others. I don't know how easy to see that is. On the flat, you can see that they're taller, but if you're looking down from above, it's not so obvious. The ones I'm going to use the British HQ, you know, the 4 figures from that on a diorama base, and that's okay. I don't mind. The difference in size matters more in some cases than others. So like the 4 Zvezda figures that are all going to be on, you know, a separate base for the, you know, battalion HQ diorama, that'll be fine. Because apart from anything else, it's a symbolic element in that. A bit like Egyptian paintings, always painting the pharaoh as like a giant. And similar with the figures from the recon that I'm going to use as scout markers. I'm going to copy the O Group scout markers idea. And again, because they're slightly symbolic. I mean, they do represent, you know, a couple of scouts going forward, but you know, they're effectively a kind of blind, you know, where you can move forward and you can put actual units where the scout markers are. So I've got no problem with them being too tall, or not too tall, but being 25mm compared to 20mm. It's more noticeable when you're actually using them as standard infantry, but it's not very noticeable from it's noticeable when you're looking from the front, but when you're looking down from above, it's not that bad. So I was considering replacing those guys from the infantry set, but I wanted to see what they look like, you know, on a base, and that's just about okay. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's okay. I can live with it for that. So yeah, I can live with those 3 on that one, and I think the scout bases are fine. because there's a certain element of they're kind of abstract a little bit. So they're perfectly fine. And also the other thing, one of the an issue with that when I was doing the review, the detail on the Bethesda plastic figures is good, but it's shallow. So when you paint it, at least when I paint them, there's probably ways of doing it with a thinner paint or whatever. You do lose a lot of the detail close up, but the posing is so good. It's just so perfect for what I wanted. A couple of scout markers. That there's great. So the posing is great, but the detail is quite shallow. So close up you lose a lot of it once they're painted. But from a distance, the posing makes up for it, I think. So I've no problems with festival figures being too big, in my opinion. The other thing is, I preferred the figures from Lancer when I got them, but I prefer them even more now, because you really notice how the differences in figures when you paint them. And the thing is, the two sets I got some from Lancer and I got some from Early War Miniatures, and they're mostly the same. They're roughly the same height and stuff, but the Lancer ones are slightly bulkier. I'm not sure quite what it is. It's something to do with 3D or whatever. If a figure is like got 1 millimeter bigger radius, then it's 2 pi r, or 6 millimeter of surface area. It's something like that. It's something to do with the way circles work. And so they're kind of the same height. They're kind of the same same size, the same height, but because they're a little bit bulkier, they're just a lot more fun to paint. And I didn't, I noticed they were slightly bulkier, but I didn't really take into account how much more pleasant they were. They'd be that bulkiness would make them to paint. So yeah, it's just an addendum to that review thing. Is the Lancer BEF ones are better, basically. So yes, so the 2 points on the previous, to extend on the previous review, was Lancer figures are definitely to my mind they're definitely the best. To the visual and then painting them, and the Bethesda ones are okay. I mean, you don't want to. I mean, there isn't the range to get a lot anyway, but the sort of the HQ set is fine because they'll all be on their own base in a separate little diorama, and the recon figures partly because they're kind of an abstraction, and they'll be on their own little separate scout bases, so that's not an issue. But then there's this third set of basic infantry, which had a good officer. I think it doesn't matter too much his the height difference because he's kneeling, and you need to get a lot of boxes to fill up a whole platoon with these, so you don't want to be doing that really. But yeah, they're big, but they're very nice. So I'm okay with them up to a point. Yeah, and the Lancer figures are just more fun to paint because they're more bulky. It's nothing wrong with the early war miniature figures. They're good, but I prefer the Lancer ones for painting. It's more enjoyable to paint because they're kind of bulkier, and it's probably part of the a reflection on skill as well. I'm not a great painter, so having a slightly bigger rifle is slightly easier to paint, and it's it's a slight difference, but but it makes a difference to me anyway. So what was I saying? Yeah, so that's the platoon slash company slash battalion, because that's saying I'm going to use in terms of different rules. There's the ones I was aiming at originally were the kind of platoon scale rules like bolt action and battle group, and kind of company scale like crossfire, and the battalion scale like rapid fire. So I'm going to use the same basic system for all of them, with a three sets of 3 bases with officers and such, and I'll just use a scale. So like in rapid fire, you have the companies that they kind of go from around 11 or 12 in the early war, and to mostly to be 8 figures for a company in later periods. I'm just making it. I'm going to make them 12 and 9, or in fact, I'm just going to make them 9 each, to us. So that each base then, so each of these bases, it can be a platoon scale where it's 3 guys, a company scale where they're a squad. 3 figures is a squad, and then that rapid fire scale, you make the 3 figures be a platoon each. So there's going to be 3 bases in each scale, with an officer in it or NCO, whatever. But anyway, blah blah. All the figures that I've got already, a couple of forward observer bases. One of these came from either EWM or Lancer, but I can't remember. And one I think is who knows. Well, I think one of them is from the Zvezda recon set, and one is from either EWM or Lancer, but I don't recall. Anyway, it just doesn't matter, because there's 2 forward observer bases, one for the battalion mortars and one for artillery. Very nice. And these medium mortar and heavy machine gun, these were from early war miniatures. And which reminds me, one of the things I said on the review for Lancer is they had a limited range, and that's not really true. However, it's very slightly true. I kind of remembered it wrong, really, because things that they don't have, because basically the Lancer miniatures does have, these are from early war miniatures, but Lancer miniatures does have heavy machine guns and mortars and tank guns. So so the limited range really only applies to they don't have a 2-inch mortar, and they don't have officers that I like. They have this guy, which is their kind of officer, platoon commander type thing, but I like platoon commanders to be more kind of active. That's the early war miniature one, advancing with it all. That's the Zvezda one, waving and pointing, and that's the kind of thing I like in platoon commanders. And that's for me. This is just a purely personal thing. It's that's more of a higher level company commander or whatever, or artillery or forward observer or whatever. So it's a purely personal thing. But so those are the 2 limits on the Lancer: is the 2-inch mortar and an officer that I like. Well, I do like this one. I like him for the company commander. So yeah, Lancer does have most of what you need. But I remembered it as being limited because of the issue with the officer and the 2-inch mortar. To finish them off, I either put the Zvezda HQ figures on a battalion diorama base. And currently he's one of the 3 platoon commanders. But ideally I'd get another active one for the platoon commander, and some other figures for a company HQ. I put these as the battalion HQ. There's no particular need or reason for that other than just me being a little OCD. Oh yeah, and I get another packet of the Zvezda recon, because I want basically one of those bases per platoon. So that'll be it's another 2 of those, and somewhere I want another platoon commander, like a more active looking one, and a couple of figures for the company commander. Another heavy machine gun, another medium mortar. Yes, so the infantry and support weapons is heavy machine guns, medium mortars, and anti-tank guns. So I had this one from before. This was a Zvezda 2-pounder anti-tank gun, and this was before I'd kind of realised that Zvezda were more closer to 25mm than 20mm. So but the main thing about it is this was a nightmare to put together. It's not kind of like really the Zvezda's fault. It's the fingers and eyesight problem, really. I put together things like that, with ease at 12. But getting back into wargaming when you're old and a bit of a wreck, it's not quite the same. And so small items, like guns, anti-tank guns or field guns, have small pieces which break and you lose and all the rest of it. So I'm kind of half tempted because it's going to be bigger than the 20mm ones, and because it gives me the heebie-jeebies looking at it. It just reminds me of what a nightmare I had putting it together. I'm kind of tempted to get a couple of the, because Lancer also does 2-pounder anti-tank guns. So I'm planning to get a heavy machine gun, medium mortar, and anti-tank gun from Lancer. But I'm tempted to get 2 and get rid of that one, just because it gives me bad memories. Because I say the scale of the Zvezda ones I don't mind in certain cases, but I'm going to use that for now. But I'm probably going to replace it at some point. The other thing of these is I didn't think to paint the bases, which it doesn't matter, but I think I will paint the bases, or the edges, I mean. So what's that lead on to? So thinking about the nightmare I had with the Zvezda anti-tank gun, brings me on to the next. So I was planning to do the same thing of that British set with the Polish stuff. Eventually, once I was going to finish the British, then finish the French, use them as proxies for Poland, and then gradually add the Polish stuff. So I got, as part of that, I got a bunch of first to fight stuff. And again, it's really just a reiteration. It's a good kit. It's got 2 anti-tank guns with crew, but it's too small for me, basically. These kits, I mean, I'm very 50-50 on making plastic kits, and I do like it, but some of it's less good than others. In particular, the sort of the really small ones, small guns like anti-tank guns. And so I'm going to give up on doing that as plastic kits from now on, because it's just too much of a pain in the ass for me. And so it's not that there's anything wrong with the kits. It's just that with my eyesight and fat fingers, it's not any fun. Basically, it's just a total nightmare trying to glue things on properly, and it just gets stuck to everything, and it all falls apart. And I kind of break the really small parts, either I get lost or they break. So I'm giving up on that, on anti-tank guns and probably field guns. I'm just going to get them in metal or resin or whatever. But that's just, so I don't want to be negative about the kit itself. It's just my fat fingers. So it's that, but a caveat which I thought about on that, and it may not be relevant to anyone, or even relevant to me, to be honest. But the other thing I got as part of that British World War II palaver, and partly because I just wanted, for nostalgia, I wanted to do one of the old Airfix kits that I did in my youth. And thinking about this in comparison with the other stuff, is you think the same argument about the anti-tank guns would apply to this 25 pounder type stuff, and it's slightly different because it's slightly bigger, so the pieces are slightly bigger. So and that's true. It's less of an issue because of that. But also the other thing about this kit in particular is that as you can see, it's got the vehicle and a tow and a little everything and the gun, and so from a manufacturer's point of view, I think they didn't need to have so many, because one of the things that happens with the like little anti-tank guns is I feel the manufacturers feel that they've got to go and add more to make people feel that it's worth it, and so there's more little tiny pieces. Whereas I think when you're doing a gun with a tow, the total count of pieces is a mixture of both the gun and the tow. So I think the gun was on one sprue, and the tow and the rest of it was on a couple of others. So so this is a general thing. I think that when people are doing kits, instead of having two small guns, they'd be better off having a tow and a gun, personally, and then you can have a simplified gun kit that goes together easily, and a simplified what we call it kit, a tow kit. So I do feel that that manufacturers might be better off copying that kind of style, a mixture of a tow and a gun, instead of trying to make something little and annoying into something good. So that's an aside, really. But anyway, going back to this, it's just fun. I mean, it's nostalgia. I mean, I don't know if it's just me or if they're generally a little bit tacky on as kit. I do just feel that there's a few pieces where either they didn't quite fit right, or they could fit right. Like one of the things with the First to Fight is they have little grooves and such, and little nodules to kind of, so the part goes exactly where it's intended to go, because the little grooves and everything, it lines up on little grooves on the interior, and these don't have that. So it's more element of guesswork, or slightly not the right size and all this shit. I don't know if that's entirely true, or if it's just me, but it did feel like the parts weren't as perfect as some of the modern ones. But and at the same time, the crew figures, not that great. So you could possibly get better metal ones to go as the crew. But overall, I thought this was great. So it's partly nostalgia, so you have to take that into account. But it was genuinely fun putting it together. I didn't enjoy doing the First to Fight anti-tank guns at all. So I was breaking parts and dropping parts, and trying to stick things together that are so tight that you don't have gluing your fingers and then everything goes everywhere. Or rather, it doesn't go everywhere, it goes everywhere you don't want, but not where you want. But anyway, so this is a ramble, obviously, but I do think manufacturers, if you've got a small gun, then it's better to put it in with a towed vehicle, and not instead of overcomplicating the kit or adding multiple versions that are too small and break and all the rest of it, is whack it in with a tow vehicle, and then the fund for the model includes a tow vehicle, and instead of trying to make something that's too small into fun. I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone, but anyway, one thing I didn't mention is the first to fire anti-tank guns do come with various crew figures, so I'll be using them even if I do get metal. I don't know. I'll be using them for something. The last things on these early war BEF stuff, I got a couple of these Matilda Mark 1s, which I forget which is which. One was from early war miniatures and one was from Lancer, but I can't actually tell which was which, but they're both good. Yeah, I can't remember what the price was, but I assume they're roughly the same. Yeah, nothing much to say really. There's good fun. This is why I'm doing early wars, because of these weird looking early war tanks. And the last thing on that is, I have this OCD thing where I've got to have the transport for the scout units. Later war they're going to have motorbikes, and I already did a company's worth of bases for the motorbikes, and there's no reason for doing this, but apart from OCD, because on my small table, if you're playing a game with a recon company, then you can just as easily have them getting off their push flags off table and advancing onto the board as standard infantry. But the actual deep reason for doing this is that I saw a game on YouTube years ago, where some guy had a very long narrow table, and he was doing an advance through the Ardennes. There's a long table, with a bunch of obstacles along the way, and at the end there was a bridge that was in the process of being dynamited or being wired up for demolition. And so the idea, you had to kind of fight your way through all the way to that end of the table before it got to the point where the bridge was blown up. And that's always been a long-term sort of thing, long-term goal. And obviously in the early war there was more bicycles and horses involved. So I will eventually do a company's worth of bike, infantry and cavalry, but I'm very reluctant to do it because it's an OCD thing. I don't really need to. But anyway, so I've got the first, for a lot of the cases I can just get away with one platoon's worth of transport. So I'm going to do that first. So I need to do a similar thing with cavalry. But yeah, for now anyway, that's enough on the push bikes. I'll just do one platoon's worth, and then they come on, and then they get off their bikes, and then that same set of bikes can be used for the next platoon. So another thing I did, before I got drowned by all that World War II British stuff, I quickly did 4 more bases of these long fence rails for Poland. I say that it's not strictly speaking realistic, because a lot of the roadways didn't have anything on either side, and it's mostly they had these kind of fence raiding, or what you call them, near the villages. But I don't get it. It's basically just a symbolic thing, just because having thick hedges or thick walls everywhere just was distracting from it for me. And these don't, because they don't really provide any cover. Cover, what's the word? They don't hide. They don't hide the units, and they don't really provide any cover. I mean, in a way they do, because anywhere near a field boundary is quite often is a drainage ditch, or just a pile of stuff from plan or whatever gets piled up. So if you're lying flat, there's probably cover, but it's not the same as a brick wall or a wall. So anyway, so symbolically they work for me symbolically. They're sort of for Poland. So we've got quite a lot of them now. That's quite good, and whatever. It was quite fun making them. The original ones weren't fun at all, because the bamboo is not the best material, and I wasn't sure what I was doing. But these ones were quite smooth once I'd figured it all out. Now, on a similar vein, just for my rivers, I got some smaller pieces to you just find you need them now and again to extend the length of stuff. So you get 8 of these from war bases for I can't remember how much. I don't really need 8. You get a packet of 8, and I don't really. I mean, I doubt I need more than 4 generally. But and I was thinking of using them for terrain bases, but I couldn't really think of anything that quite fitted the shape. So whatever, 8 short river pieces for my river collection. Lastly, on the figures front, well, kind of. I showed these off before. I painted these last month, but I got 30mm round. I got a basis with 30mm slots, which didn't fit. So yeah, this is just for anyone who gets these things. I think I can't remember what they're called. I think it's glaive bearers or something. I can't remember. But anyway, they're from Games Workshop, and they're one of their cheap kits where you get four things in the easy fit. So I bought these. I bought one box for Frostgrave, and my brother got me a couple more, which neatly makes 12 in all, which makes for neatly 4 bases of 3. So what I'm using them for, I do not know. Or I do know. My third project is going to be a historical Normans invading Sicily game or campaign or something. It's going to be something around that. But because I bought all these Frostgrave figures, I decided instead of going buying lots of Normans and Saracens and such, I'm just going to use that the Sicily campaign as an excuse to paint out all this Frostgrave stuff that I bought ages ago, and just swap the factions around. So these, I don't know. I mean, they might, they could potentially be. I'm going to try and make connections, historical connections between the factions and these Frostgrave figures. So there's 2 possibilities for this kind of weird undead stuff. There's Carthage, or what the region that Carthage was in. Can make them kind of cultists, maybe undead type thing. And the other option was making these part of the papal faction, and say underneath Rome there's all these I think they're called ossuaries. I'm not sure. There's basically these big tunnels under Rome where they have all these bones and skeletons. That at some point in history they were interned there as a kind of burial thing. So I'm going to say there was some kind of necromancers, went into Rome and raised up all these skeletons and killed everyone. So so that's going to be one of the factions in that Norman's conquering Sicily thing. I say eventually I'll get the campaign set up and using these figures, but eventually I'll get the historical figures. This is really just an excuse to paint up the stuff that I'd already painted, that I'd already bought, that's sitting there staring at me. But anyway, the main reason for this is just anyone who gets these figures, you need, and you want to put them on a movement tray, you need 32mm bases, or rather bases with slots for 32mm figures. Yeah, and these ones with 30mm, I'll save them for a bit just in case I get some other figures that need 30mm bases. But otherwise, this is basically what I've been doing for ages. I get bases for different experiments, and if it doesn't work out, I try and turn them into terrain bases. So, but I can't think of anything to do with them at the moment. But I'll probably come up with something. But anyway, the other thing, I really like these figures. I mean, they're because they're relatively, because the game's workshop and relatively cheap. That's definitely one factor. Two, they're weird and kind of interesting, and yeah, I don't know. So I like them, despite it being not very historical. Lastly, on the figure scale, is it unpainted Stuka for my recon patrol thing, using these 1/44 scale Zvezda kits. I mean, is that you have these small planes, that are out of scale, but considering that they're far away, they act as an abstract marker of what's flying overhead, rather than having a kind of 172 plane, which takes up too much space. So there's a limited range, but I thought it would be fun for the early war thing to have these, and there just be one at a time basically, because if it's a fighter, then the rest, then they win. If it's fighter versus fighter, then you roll a dice to see which wins. So it'll always be one at a time, and have them as a kind of a random event in the game. So there's a Stuka. There's this German reconnaissance plane, which I'll use to for artillery batteries, artillery stuff. A German fighter, and I don't know what. I think actually the Polish Air Force got trashed early on, so, and I don't know what kind of fighter they got. But for now, I just got a Hurricane, and that'll be for that Allied fire for now, and do a bit more research maybe to come up with alternatives, because they have Russian fighters, so the Poles might have something similar. I'll have to look into it. But I haven't painted it yet because I don't. Well, I do know the colours because I've looked them up, but I don't have the colours yet. So I'll just use them unpainted for now for my recon patrol. Another thing, although I was trying to avoid getting any new stuff for the Polish recon patrol, and just use it and paint stuff that I already had, I couldn't resist a bit of new purchasing. So I was getting some more. So I got some the first to fight anti-tank guns, which I didn't enjoy at all. Not because they're bad, just because my fat fingers. They're kind of small parts. So I got some Polish armoured vehicles for that. So yeah, there's a Polish armour car, Polish FC-17, which is I think it's actually a World War I or just after French tank. or World War One era, let's put it that way. Possibly wrong. And the 7TP, which I think was a Polish one. So I got 3 of those, and I'll probably get some of the various tanks they had. I think I'm missing there's some tankettes, and I think there was another French one. And I haven't decided yet how many I'm going to get or what, but I'm probably going to try to get one of each, probably, for the kind of games I'm going to play where they have random reinforcements. You know, so it could be an armoured car wanders in, or it could be a big tank. Who knows? So anyway, I say I wanted to get some of those. I like the ones I got before, and there's not many places where they do Polish armour. So you know, does it for me. So that's them, because you know, one of the things that put me off of Flames of War, which is, you know, looked like a pretty good game overall, is that their scale of 1 to 1, and you know, you need a whole having a platoon of all the same tanks, so you end up with like 5 or 10 or whatever, 15 of the same kind of tank, which to me is nothing wrong with it. It's just from my point of view, looking at, you know, wanting like one each for the visuals. You know, you don't really want 10 or 15, so that's why I kind of tend towards the sort of 1 to 3 type scale, or you know, 1 to 5 or 1 to 2.5. You know, something so that's you know, it's a sort of scale that's kind of between 2.5 and 3. So basically, if you know, if an army has a platoon of 3 tanks, then you have replace it with 1, and if their platoon is 5, you replace it with 2. So it's like somewhere between 2.5 and 3. And you know, jambling the units up in unrealistic ways. So like you know, instead of 3 companies of all the same tanks, you have a company of 1, a second company of something else, and a third company of something else. And it's not realistic, but it kind of balances the realism and the visual thing for me. So so basically, I'm wondering if I'm half aiming at getting 2 of each, and half not wanting to. But you know, I'll probably end up doing that in the end. Getting 2 each of everything. You know, war stuff. But in dribs and drabs, because I'll get fed out of it. Because like this month, I got kind of a bit fed up painting the British World War II. So it started off quick, and it gradually got slower over the month as I got more fed up with it. But that's done now. I say I like doing the kits a bit, but I say once I've done one, I tend to lose the kind of motivation to do more of the same. So I don't know, whatever. There'll be some Polish tanks and eventually Polish infantry once I've finished off the British and the French. The first to fight kits come with these little magazines. I mentioned it before, which I don't know. I mean, I can't read it, but they do have various pictures, which are interesting, and you can glean information from the rest just by, you know, because there's like stuff that's to do with numbers. You can kind of guess roughly what they mean. But anyway, you know, paint schemes. So you know, it's kind of interesting. Even if you can't read it, it's got little bits of interesting info. So that's a bonus. It's not much of a bonus, but it's a bit of a bonus for the first to fight ones. So where was that? Was that everything? Probably not. I can't remember. But yeah, the general gist is so I've been doing a whole month of that recon patrol stuff, just because I was doing these kind of random reinforcements, and I didn't have half the things on the list. So, and whereas now I have they're not actually Polish. But if I get if I roll for a a field gun reinforcements, then I'll just use the British 25 pounder. And if I get a tank, I'll just use the Vickers Mark 1. Oh no, what was that called? No, the Matilda Mark 1 tank. Until I've got these other things made. So that's okay. So I'm go back to the recon patrol now. I've got a list of stuff to get. The next stage is, well, I can get back to messing about with the recon patrol, but then there's a few bits more for the British. There's there's the support weapons part for the French, and I don't have a source for the Polish infantry yet. But I'll look around for one. Well, the first to fight has some plastic infantry. I want to see if there's any metals first. So yes, that's on the that's on the list on the list of plans. But so I'm a little bit fed up with painting World War II, so I'm going to go back to doing the recon patrol stuff. Trying to get that fixed and sorted. And I don't know what I'm going to do next. I might go back to doing some more of the War of Spanish Succession now that I've had a bit of a break. So I might do that, or I might paint up more of the Frostgrave figures. So we shall see. Anyway, I hope that was vaguely of interest to someone. Okay, to a bit.